Hello again. This video is going to talk about citing sources both orally and in a written form. Why do we care about citing our sources? Why is this something we actually are trying to care about or think about when we're giving a speech? First off, when we cite sources, it increases our credibility. It basically calls on somebody else who has a higher amount of authority than we do and says, see, they said it's true, so it's okay that I say it's true also. It says this person is more of an expert than me and they agree with what I'm saying, so basically you should agree with what I'm saying too. So increasing credibility is a really nice thing. In addition to that, it gives credit to the people who actually did the work. In the United States, we take a lot of pride in getting credit for the work that we do. We hate it at work if we have an idea and somebody else takes credit for our idea. So really when we're citing our sources, we're being good stewards, we're being good people that are taking care of other people and making sure those who did the work actually get the credit for it. When we're talking about oral and written citations are citations you say aloud during your speech. Written citations then are going to be included in a written out format on your outline in a references section. This is very similar to a bibliography section, but as you've read on a different resource for this section, a bibliography might include things you don't actually cite in your speech, as opposed to a references section, which only includes the things that you referenced in your speech. These are a little bit different, so we're going to talk about what you need to include in both. In oral citations, there are three things you need to include: who, when, and where. The who you need to talk about is who created or published the material. Right? That might be an author that you find, or it might be an organization that you would find. So for instance, if Dr. Hugh Jazz put forward a book, then you would say Dr. Hugh Jazz published this book, etc., etc., etc. Okay? If the CDC put forward the information, the Center for Disease Control, then you want to say that they were the ones that published the material. All right, so it's who created it or who put the material out there or who did the research, that type of thing. Okay, you may need to include why this person is a trustworthy person or why this organization is a trustworthy organization. If you're giving us information from the Center for Disease Control, we're probably going to trust you. If you're saying Uncle Bob said in his blog, then you need to explain to us why Uncle Bob is a credible source. In addition to who created or published the material, we need to think about when the material was published or made public. Like we talked about, timeliness of evidence is a huge thing. So if you're citing something from 1990, your audience needs to know that. They need to know that there was not any more information that was more up to date. Now, you'll find the material the published dates either in the information at the beginning of an article or maybe at the bottom of a page. You may find it at the bottom of a website. And if you can't find information at the bottom of a website, for instance, what you'll want to cite is the last accessed date for that website. So, for instance, if you were citing something from the American Red Cross website and there was something on there that you wanted to cite but you couldn't find a date for it, what you'd say would be, according to the article found on the American Red Cross website, last accessed whatever time and date. What you're saying then is that your audience knows that you found this information on the website and the last time you looked at the website, this is what it said. So if they go back to the website, it might be something different, kind of covers your butt a little bit, but when you looked at it, that's what it said. It also tells them that you don't know the actual date or time that that information was put up there. So it tells them that you think it's the most up-to-date that you could find, but you're not sure. It's a good way to do that. The final thing to include in oral citations is where the material was published or made public. So if you found it on a website, say you got it on a website. If you found it in a book, say you found it in a book. If you found it in a journal article, say you found it in a journal article. All right? So let's get some examples of oral citations. One of the ways that you could do it would be to say, according to Dr. Hugh Jazz in his 2012 book, and then you'd say the information you want to share. Okay? So according to Dr. Hugh Jazz in his 2012 book, everyone should eat more popcorn. All right? That's basically one of the things you want to think about, all right? So you've got the author who published the information, you've got when it was published, and you've got where it was published. Those are the three things you need. Another way you could do it would be to vary it up just a little bit. Dr. Hugh Jazz's article, so you're talking about who and where it was published in the Taste of Home magazine in August 2010, suggested, and then you say the information that you want to share. So again, you have the who said it, you have where it was published, more specifically this time, and when it was published. Another example you could use would be in 2012, Dr. Hugh Jazz, clinical researcher at Mayo Clinic, published his survey findings in the Internal Journal of Medicine. He found that whatever you're going to share. So again, you have the date that the information was put forward, you have the person who put forward the information, along with, remember I said sometimes you have to have that credibility statement, why are they trustworthy about this? The clinical researcher at Mayo Clinic. And then where he published that in the Internal Journal of Medicine. So that's how oral citations work. You need to have some of those in your speech. When you're including written citations depend on what it is that you are actually citing. Most of the time you're going to need those same types of pieces of information, such as the person or the organization that put the information out there, the year the information was published, and then some more information about the actual article or website or whatever. So there's a couple of things you'll want to think about for that. You're going to want to see the Creating APA References video for more details, and also look at the websites that are available on your assignment description as to how to create those written citations. Now when it comes to written citations, I'm not going to be a big hard ass about it. Alright, honestly, I want you to attempt the APA, but if you don't get it perfect, I'm not going to take off a bunch of points. However, you will not get full credit for this assignment if you don't at least attempt to create APA citations. So if I see you on your references page just list a bunch of websites, that's not going to cut it. You're going to lose points for that. If I see you put down an author and then a book title and nothing else, you're going to lose some points for that. I really want you to try this out, okay? So hopefully this helps you with both written and oral citations.